I'm Lisanne Flynn. I'm a master healer who holds space for any earthling as they reunite body and soul in their planetary experience. I'm a bridge for relationships between earthlings of all species so that the heart bond becomes stronger, deeper, and more loving. I serve in the roles of animal communicator, medium, and medical intuitive, and I use the tools of shamanic journeying and soul retrieval to support all earthlings in their recovery from past trauma. I'm certified as a Reiki Master Teacher and as a canine massage therapist. This is the Animals I View podcast. I am partial to naps these days, and I always have been, let's face it, and I mean naps of all sizes, although there is something to be said for naps that go on for too long. I know you all have seen those memes. The ones that feature a bleary-eyed human with super bad hair peering at the camera with a caption like, "I went to sleep at 2 p.m. and woke up at 9 a.m. Is it still Tuesday?" sort of a thing. Because my body has been known to have a sleep hangover, and no doubt yours has too. It's where you wake up and initially your body feels refreshed for maybe 5 minutes and you're alert, and then shortly after, when you begin to move about and become aware of a fog of sorts, a hangover, where the rest of the world seems to move a bit faster than you are currently moving. There's a slightly dull headache feeling, and well, it's all downhill from there. Versus perhaps what we humans refer to as a power nap of, say, 15 to 20 minutes duration, where you wake up, you're surprised that you've only been asleep for 15 or 20 minutes because your body tells you that it's refreshed and raring to go. And then again, some of that depends upon how sleep-deprived your body is. And as I've said recently, to a few newly expectant parents, there's a reason why sleep deprivation is defined as a form of torture. Because just like food, water, and exercise, sleep perhaps is the fourth pillar of what a physical form on this planet needs to not only survive, but to thrive as well. From our frenemy science on sleep, your body is left at risk for developing high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, for feeling the effects of a poorly moderated nervous system, so that you're both extra sensitive and as well perhaps more prone to feelings of depression. And the list goes on. With babies, having had personal experience with this, it gets better as they age out of infanthood, crashes again when they become teenagers and with curfews, gets better when they move out, crashes again when they begin to have children of their own, perhaps. Well, you get the picture. And that's not to say that it's just parents who are continually sleep deprived. I think all connected families in human experience go through cycles of sleep deprivation based on the relationships with each other, with their own life and soul path progressions, all of it. I don't think it's at all uncommon for humans to say, "Oh, I just want to come back as Cat and nap the rest of my life away." Because we are envious of such beings who seem to be so at ease in their environment that they do sleep 23 out of 24 hours a day. But just look at what they pack into the 1 hour, though. Are we doing the same? And are we also doing the same by honoring and listening to what we may perceive as the demands of our own body? One of the most profound messages I've ever heard from the universe, as I may have mentioned before, was, "Listen to your body and all will be well." Which, as I've said before and will say again, is a fairly sweeping and rather bold statement for the universe to make, in my opinion, and even more so to think that I would go along with it. They know me too well, fortunately or unfortunately, and of course, that's the whole point. For many years with EMS, and perhaps you yourself with a chronic something your body may have, I don't listen, and more accurately, I choose to ignore. Humans are really good at that, right? Because we perceive that in order to stay on top of the heap, species-wise, we've got to do more, spend more, think more, just more. This goes against the very grain of the planet herself, though, because it's not about the more at any point in time. It's about the rest, the renew, and the repeat. The earth rests during seasons where there is no more, or at least we can see there's no more, because so very much is going on underground in terms of recycling that what was. The earth renews and sets about regrowing or renewing the cycle of production, and because it's part of the cycle and that is being honored, it's not the point of the whole cycle, it's just part of the whole cycle. The earth then repeats this cycle of resting after the renewing or growing has stopped, and the bodies of the beings who are at the end of the growth cycle are at rest once more, and of course, this includes our physical bodies. Over and over again, this balance and partnership of unified, seeming duality perpetuates and has for millions of years. Other species honor this cycle and, a new word for you, rematriate themselves to their mother generation after generation. Are we doing the same? Or are we just focused on ourselves and the quantity/quality of more? And are we ignoring the very vehicles that tell us how we are in being in every single moment? These days with EMS, I'd like to think I'm doing a better job at listening to my body and honoring its needs. That's a day-by-day thing. So that if a nap feels essential and my body is becoming overly fatigued, I'll step away from my desk, head to my easy chair, put the footrest up, gather up the blanket that's nearby, and close my eyes. You may say, well, Lisanne, my job just doesn't allow me to do that. The animals would say, you can't afford to burn the candle at both ends, and you get to choose which end you're going to light first. Humans everywhere, myself included, have such FOMO, courtesy perhaps of social media, that may cause us to keep the candle lit at both ends. And again, you get to choose. Will you choose to listen to your body so that all in your world will be well? What have you got to lose? Years ago, my youngest son talked about his sleep cycle and timing so that his body got enough rest and that he felt refreshed in the morning and ready to go about his day. I'm certain that there was some FOMO on his part, being 20-something at the time, and yet he still had the discipline, which I admire so very much, to follow through with that and to his benefit. We also have the thief of joy, which is comparison, and being herd animals, we like to try to fit ourselves into certain molds of I get up at 5 to go jogging, then I'm at work at 7, not taking a lunch until about 1, and often I squeeze another workout in at the end of the day. And then I might come home and I might watch a little bit of TV, play with the kids, and I might work again until midnight or so, etc. And I know that that's an exaggeration perhaps, and yet maybe for you there's some truth to that. And hey, if your body communicates back and says all is good, then that's where you are. That's your sweet spot. It's when we ignore the body, when it says, I am under so much stress, and while you think the extra workout is helping, it's not, because it's too close to when I'm winding down for the day. And so, that's perhaps what your body sounds like when it's screaming. And even when the body screams at us, we give it the message that something is wrong and needs to be fixed. I have yet to work with an animal who reports that A, they feel terrible about something that's wrong with their body, and B, even in the cases of terminal illness, that they want it above all to be fixed. They have such a wonderful relationship with their bodies, and come to think of it, because they're nudging me in that direction, they also know beyond a shadow of a doubt when they listen to their bodies, all is in fact well. With everything in their experience, and because every other species is listening to their bodies as well, that everything in the collective of unified duality on this planet is also well. They see it as something so straightforward that it appears to humans to be breathtakingly simple, and the focus on the first word, it does take our breath away, because we think, how can this be possible? How can one just be rather than do and accomplish so much? Come to think of it, we usually say, take a nap, or when asked what we're doing, "Oh, I was napping," or "I had a nap," which is in the past perfect tense, right? The word had and the ing ending is the past progressive tense of was. Even the take implies ownership, as if we're taking something away, seems to be specific to napping, whereas we usually don't say, "I took a good night's sleep." We say, "I had a good night's sleep." And more accurately, the animals say, it would resonate more to say, "I followed my body to rest," in all cases. And maybe there's something about that lack of consciousness that we don't like because it makes us more vulnerable, or so we perceive, coupled with the fact that while we have knowledge about why sleep and rest are vital to the overfunctioning of the body in all species, our species alone is fearful about controlling the body's need for the rest part of the cycle. Among other animal species, elephants used to be believed, keyword, to be the penultimate champion of not needing sleep in that their bodies can survive on about 2 hours of sleep. Koala, on the other end, needs about 20. We've talked about the cat need for 23. And our own species is survivable on about 7 hours of sleep per 24-hour cycle. In a unique non-coincidence, it is the northern elephant seal who can also get by on about 2 hours of sleep deep under the ocean, which, when contrasted with how much they sleep on land, up to 10 hours a day, is really significant. And they spend about 7 months out of each year at sea. So these super deep REM sleep cycles, where they sink to as low as 2,500 feet under the ocean and stay that way in naps that last as short as 10 minutes before they surface for air. And then they sink again in what the New York Times article title referred to as power naps. I am fairly certain that there are no nap hangovers among the bunch, although maybe like you and I, and speaking only for myself, they occasionally wake themselves up mid-snore. While they're out at sea feeding themselves, they are, of course, prey to shark and orca and don't have the ability to have unihemispheric sleep like dolphin or seal does, where one half of their brain sleeps while the other half stays awake and on the lookout for the aforementioned predators. Elephant seals sleep like we do, where the whole brain isn't available to their third dimension reality, and what science would say is effectively shutting the brain down completely. It does make me wonder, though, what kind of dreams do elephant seals have? Which is so interesting, right? And even more so, their flexibility of spending over half their time in the ocean feeding and watching out for predators on 2 hours of sleep to the other 5 months of the year on land and sleeping on average a bit over 10 hours a day, where having fed themselves, their primary objective switches to mating, molting their fur, and non-coincidentally, losing up to half their body weight. As elephant seal starts to dive toward the bottom of the ocean, at some point they stop swimming and their bodies start to glide and their brain activity starts to slow. Researchers attached non-invasive monitors to the heads of the elephant seal and collected data over a period of 5 days to get a sense of what their sleeping habits were. And yes, as elephant seal comes up to the surface, its prodigious proboscis, meaning big nose, is what I see first, along with 2 luminous eyes. They wink at me and turn over to offer me a flipper handshake and introduce themselves as Oliver. Fair enough. Oliver says, "You're right, of course. It's so much easier to ask us than attach all sorts of electronic gizmos to our heads that measure what you want them to measure and thus leaving out everything you don't want to measure, which of course is literally everything." I'm thinking Oliver means energy, and he nods his head in agreement. Overall, his energy feels a bit sleepy, as if he'd just woken up from a rather deep REM sleep, and in his energetic scan of my own body makes note of its fatigue, the MS, and grumbles a bit that my discipline is lacking. Leave it to an animal to call it as they see it. True enough, Oliver, true enough. And yet, there's no animosity with his information, only compassion for my journey on the planet, as he knows I hold with compassion his own journey within me. He continues, Each species must follow their specific design, and he alludes to my form follows function perspective for the design of species bodies on Earth. Some of us need to sleep more during the day and hunt at night. Some of us need smaller amounts of deep restorative sleep, and others of us can be woken from a seemingly deep sleep by the crinkle of a cheese wrapper. He chuckles to himself, and I grin with him, as he's referring, of course, to dog. He uses dog because he knows that's a physical form with which most humans are familiar and comfortable, and naturally, humor would be his mode of communication because he knows that works well with us. Oliver continues, your species is chronically sleep deprived, and those who need sleep the most may very well be those who are charged with the most important task of all, taking care of other bodies. He's referring, I think, to doctors, nurses, first responders, and the like, as well as new parents. And with the latter, it varies so widely across the world about which countries are cognizant of the need for rest, renew, and repeat cycle for new parents. And within this country, parental leave is based on privilege and affected by your socioeconomic status. Like other species we've talked to before, he cannot reconcile how we treat each other and how we have such disparate lists of options for our needs. Quote, no elephant seal would ever say to another elephant seal, you've had enough sleep. I need more than you, and you don't get to have the sleep time on the shore that I do. He continues, all physical forms are considered to be the same in a sense and are to be guided by the instruction manual of the body that rests deep within every cell of that form. To go against that is simply, and he pauses for a moment, looking at me mournfully, madness. Oliver then reaches up his flipper once more and sinks slowly from my sight. I'm left with a pungent mix of seaweed, fish, and curiously enough, a feeling of relaxation, so that I might become more disciplined and follow my own body's needs for naps, consistent bedtimes, and better sleep habits as my physical form dictates. He's right, you know, this ambassador of elephant seal. To not sleep in any way we can, including naps, seems folly to all other species. And rather than deny ourselves what we think is a luxury in any given moment, may just lead us closer to all being well. To quote from Shakespeare, not poppy, nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups of the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou owest yesterday. And at least that's how Elephant Seal and Shakespeare see it. Thanks for listening today. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. I offer all new clients a free 15-minute consultation. To schedule online, go to LizanneFlynn.com. Come and find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I encourage you to sign up for my quarterly newsletter on my website, where I also post notices for upcoming events, the starting date of courses in the Animal's Eye View Academy, and online psychic fairs. The episodes of this podcast are available on my YouTube channel, complete with subtitles. You'll find that link in my podcast footer, and be sure to subscribe. Tune in 2 weeks' time, where I'll talk about the energy of crystals and their demand really, to be understood. Because one energetic size of each crystal really does not fit all. This has been the Animal's Eye View podcast. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.